Call the meeting to order for subcommittee meeting on House File 2557. This is a bill that came over to us from the House. Exempts from child abuse a person raising, guiding, or instructing a child in a manner consistent with the child's sex. This includes, but is not limited to, the following: referring to the child by titles or pronouns consistent with the child's sex, seeking and consenting to mental health services for the purpose of helping the child live consistent with the child's sex, making mental health or medical decisions based on the child's sex, declining to consent to gender transition procedure related activity for the child. And the bill adds the above to foster parent language in Iowa Code, court order custody considerations in divorce, prospective adoptive parents, and exemptions to child endangerment. So that is the bill in front of us. Senator Dickey, do you have any comments?
I do not. A lot of people here in the room and online. I'll save my comments so they can speak.
Okay. Senator Cornbach, I believe you're online. Do you have any comments? Is he online?
Well, they said he was going to be online.
Okay, before I go around the room, I think just out of respect, I'm going to wait a couple minutes to see if Senator Cornbach is able to get online. Senator Cornbach, we've had some of the opening comments. Would like to open it up for any opening comments that you may have.
Well, thank you. Sorry, late joining you, but another phone call came in at the wrong time. As I read through this bill, the question that jumps out at me is how many cases have we had where parents have been accused of child abuse for the type of alleged infraction that is specified here. I mean, it seems to me that I've never heard of anything like that. It seems to me that it may be a simple problem. So, if anybody would like to share examples, I'd be very interested in hearing about that.
Okay, thank you, Senator. And we will start around the room. We'll just start here because it's convenient. Make sure the red light's on when you speak.
My name is Hillary Johnson, and I have been a licensed mental health therapist in Des Moines for 10 years and currently own a mental health therapy clinic employing 13 other therapists. I am a parent, a step-parent, a former foster parent, a former social worker for HHS, and I happen to be a member of the queer community. I oppose this proposed bill. Conversion therapy has been thoroughly discredited and rejected by the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, and other major mental health organizations. There is no credible evidence that conversion therapy is effective. However, there is overwhelming evidence that it is harmful. Clients subjected to these practices experience higher rates of trauma, shame, depression, and suicide. This bill will increase the rate of suicide among young people. 23 states, the District of Columbia, and Washington.
I'm sorry.
And Washington, D.C. have full bans on conversion therapy. The Supreme Court has already allowed conversion therapy bans to stand by refusing to overturn them. Even when conversion therapy bans are challenged on constitutional grounds, lower federal courts, such as the 10th Circuit, have upheld them, affirming that states have the authority to regulate professional conduct to protect youth. This is about regulating professional conduct, not the free speech or parental rights. Allowing licensed therapists to practice conversion therapy would place Iowa law in conflict with the ethical standards of mental health professions. The Professional Code of Ethics governing LISWs, LMHCs, and LMFTs do not support attempts to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. This bill would authorize a practice that no major mental health ethics body endorses and that professional standards increasingly recognize as harmful. Therapy should be a place of safety and not coercion. As clinicians, our ethical obligation is to do no harm and to affirm clients' inherent dignity, not impose ideology on identity. Ethical therapy supports clients in understanding themselves, building resilience, and living authentically. It does not attempt to erase identity or frame queerness as pathology. I urge lawmakers to reject this bill and protect rather than endanger LGBTQ lives.
Thank you. And I'm not going to set a stopwatch on everyone, but we can see we have quite a few people in the room, so try to be respectful of time and cut right to the chase so everyone can have an opportunity to speak.
Can I give this to?
We're going to go around the room, so
Or are we going in and out?
just right here.
Pro,
We're
con?
just going to go around the room.
Hi, everyone. My name is the Reverend Steve Seek. I serve as the minister at First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. My conscience calls me to speak out against this bill. First, I guess I'm just baffled that our legislature is spending so much time passing laws addressed at about 1% of Iowans when 100% of us are drinking water that contributes to us having the second highest cancer rate in America. But I don't get to pick what's on the docket. This bill works like many to assume that chromosomes equal sex equal gender. That's medically inaccurate. That excludes people with Turner syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, and the meaningful population of people who are born intersex. Now, I understand that I didn't learn that in 8th grade biology, and neither did anyone else probably, but hopefully we don't pass bills based on middle school education. My main problem with this bill is its poor theology. It assumes that Genesis 1:27, male and female, he created them, is the limit of God's creation. But God created so much more in this world than what gets listed in Genesis 1, and I would be horrified to think that we're legislating away God's infinite creativity. I've taught and raised trans kids, and germane to this bill, I've actually fostered 9 kids. My lived experience matches the actual scientific research. The kids who are supported in their gender identity do far better than kids who are forced into harmful conversion therapy. Anytime you're passing legislation that further restricts the rights of already oppressed and marginalized children, it's good to take a moment to notice that that's what you're doing. Here we have the opportunity to stop that cycle. Jesus says it perfectly in Matthew 25:45. Truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Wes Mullins. I'm a resident of Norwalk, Iowa. I run Capital City Pride, but I'm not here because of Capital City Pride. I'm here because I'm a survivor of ex-gay reparative conversion therapy. From age 16 to 21, my family put me into that therapy. And I'm here today because I want you to understand the damage that it does to people. And there's going to be some people in this room who haven't gone through that therapy who will try to tell you that it doesn't do that damage. But the most respected institution that created that type of therapy, Exodus International, closed its doors in 2013 with a statement that said, we apologize to everyone we have harmed. And this measure is not exactly the same thing as that, but it's heading us back down a path that we've already determined hurts people. So I'm asking you to please not hurt people the way that I have been hurted, the way that I have been harmed. I want to offer you one more piece, which is that a month ago, one of the most powerful experiences of my life occurred, which is that the first therapist that I saw in 1998 to receive my first conversion therapy found me through Facebook, got a hold of my phone number, and called me to apologize. And And that's what we should be putting into the world is a recognition of the harm that it causes, apology where that harm has been created, and a commitment to never going back and doing that again. To me, this is no different than any other form of therapy. We don't lobotomize people for crazy reasons anymore, but we used to do that. But now the medical community says that hurts people. We don't do it anymore. So please make it where these things that are harmful are not easier to do than they are already. Thank you so much.
I think we just need to sit with what he said for a minute and allow that to sink into our hearts and our souls. God created all people. We turn to a book that was written thousands of years ago and think that it was written for us. It was written for all people thousands of years ago. We have to read it within context. We have to read it with a knowledge of growth and change. We have to read it with an understanding that those people who wrote it were being faithful. We cannot turn to that document and think that it will legislate for us. It can inform our hearts. It can inform our basic beliefs. But if we turn to 3 pieces of scripture and say that they allow us to harm our children, allow us to take their belonging and their identity and twist it and turn it, then we are doing a disservice to God and the greatness and the mystery that God is. So I urge you, please, please stop this insanity. Turn to the issues that are truly impacting the lives of Iowans. Focus on the things that are keeping people up at night. And do not allow our individual beliefs to dictate a policy that will harm the children of Iowa. My apologies. I'm the Reverend Heather Walkendorf, and I serve New Beginnings Christian Church in Urbandale. Thank you.
Good morning, Senators. I'm Connie Ryan. I'm the Executive Director and Lobbyist for Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund, and I can't stress how much we are opposed to this legislation. We're opposed to the entire bill, but I want to talk specifically about conversion therapy. Conversion therapy is widely discredited, as you have heard, by legitimate mental health and healthcare professionals and organizations as it results in psychological and emotional harm. Conversion therapy teaches children and adults that being LGBTQ is wrong and to disregard their sexual orientation or gender identity, essentially to, quote, pray the gay away. The Iowa legislature should not be legitimizing a dangerous practice or considering legislation that will only result in harming children. I would draw your attention to an email that you received yesterday from the Reverend Greg Neal, who serves Grace United Methodist Church in Des Moines. He could not be with us today. He has shared with you in that email his personal tragic story of conversion therapy being forced upon him as a teenager, and his ability to overcome that horrific experience and be the strong, amazing person and minister he is today. I urge you to read his email and his story. Listen to him, as I urge you to listen to Wes as well, and reject this dangerous legislation.
Hello, I'm Bob Cook. I'm a lobbyist with Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers, and I absolutely oppose this bill. I'm just going to echo what everyone else has said here. It is pseudoscience. It is opposed by every credible, respected medical organization, relevant medical organization, on the grounds that it, first of all, it doesn't do what it pretends to do, and the outcomes, long-term mental health outcomes of conversion therapy are horrible. Please vote against this bill. It's going to do no good for anyone. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Emily Harsh. I'm a West Des Moines resident and a licensed mental health therapist. Over the last decade, I've worked with over 200 transgender youth, adults, and families. And the most common thing that I hear from caregivers at the end of our journey is, I have no idea why I was so afraid of my kid being trans. And bills like this prey on that caregiver anxiety. When we're anxious and we don't listen to evidence, but rather support our anxiety, accommodate it, our fear response grows and we're more susceptible to false promises like conversion therapy. So I beg you to listen to evidence. One thing I recently learned is that in 2022, the United States spent $9 billion with a B, $9 billion annually on conversion therapy efforts. $8.5 billion of that went to treating suicidality, substance misuse, and emotional distress following failed conversion attempts, because we know it does not work. So is this what we want for our children? Is this, in the context of foster care, what we want for other people's children? Suicidality, substance misuse? Is this even the cost that we want for the state of Iowa? So I'm asking you, please stop listening to your anxiety, listen to the evidence, and do not support this bill. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jacob Mead, and I'm a film and video professional. And a huge part of my job is listening. You can't tell someone else's story without listening to what they have to say. And today we've heard from faith leaders, from people who've been affected by this as children, by mental health therapists, and they're all saying, listen, this is going to hurt people. I don't want to live in an Iowa that hurts people. So please, I urge you to reject this bill.
Hello, everyone. Keenan Crow, One Iowa. We are registered in firm opposition to this bill. I want to be very clear. What this bill does is limit the application of our child abuse statutes to enable abuse as long as it is in the name of forcing a child to conform to gender stereotypes. If that wasn't the case, this bill would not be needed. Everyone understands that basic things like calling your son are not abusive, and the Iowa judiciary is fairly conservative in this regard. They're not going to buy arguments to the contrary. The biggest concern we have is the language on page 1, lines 12 through 14. That language would clearly enable parents to engage in the dangerous, discredited practices known as conversion therapy, which is aimed at changing the gender identity of a child. These practices, as you've heard, do not work, and aside from being ineffective, are extremely damaging. They have demonstrated to lead to increased anxiety, depression, suicidality, and homelessness, among others. They also, very alarmingly, decrease the likelihood that somebody subjected to those practices will seek out mental health supports in the future due to the distrust that's been created by those interactions. And that's why every major medical and mental health organization has rejected those practices as unsafe and ineffective. That includes the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and many more. Literally, name a major professional medical organization, they've got a position on this, and they say that it doesn't work. So all we are asking is not to create exemptions in the child abuse code for things that are clearly abusive. Unfortunately, that's what this law does, and that's why you should vote no. Thank you.
John Butler, Pella, Iowa. I know that God never changes, and that adding more genders to male and female is changing the scripture, which we are warned about not doing. On the other hand, I thought this bill was more about protecting parents to be able to raise their children the way they think they should, not worried about this gender conversion therapy. 10-year-old child doesn't know what sex they are. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hi, Damian Thompson with Iowa Safe Schools. I'll keep it very brief. We've heard from some mental health professionals about best practices. We're very much in support of those best practices, and the mental health professionals that are licensed do act within those confines. So where does that leave us? This bill will ultimately empower and protect providers who are not licensed, and that is where we see some of the gnarliest so-called treatments for conversion therapy, everything from shame to enforced vomiting, aversion therapies, electric shock. These are things that do happen in Iowa. We have students who are no longer with us because they've been victimized by these horrific treatments. Please, please, we ask that you do not support this legislation for the sake of our children. Thanks.
My name is Nick Klinkathis. I'm a licensed mental health professional, a small business owner, and a resident here in Des Moines. I am also here as a survivor of conversion therapy, which as has been explained, if this bill were to be passed, would be greenlit as a legitimate practice here in the state. I received conversion therapy through a Christian-based counselor when I was 19. I had known I was gay for about 5 years and was earnestly doing everything I could to make myself straight enough to marry a woman and have the life that my church taught me to have. I thought of my gayness as a cancer, something to cut out and purge from myself. This was the religious culture that I was being raised in, the family culture that I was raised in. The therapist that I worked with validated these beliefs, and as part of many strategies that we tried, taught me to snap a rubber band around my wrist every time that I had a gay thought. And I snapped that rubber band so many times that I had welts forming on my wrists. Also, I could associate those thoughts and feelings with pain. Over time, I lost the will to live and frequently entertained thoughts of suicide. It felt like the only way to make it to heaven and be cured from being gay. I am grateful every day that I survived long enough to find my way out and be much better about my life. I have seen so many not survive this journey, and folks who did everything that they could to conform with whatever standards that exist in scripture or other beliefs that influence those perspectives. I empathize with the parents' rights argument being had here, but this is abuse. And when we are changing a law to limit abuse statutes to greenlight an abusive practice, I think that's something that we should be extremely concerned about, and the state of Iowa should not be looking to endorse this practice in any way. I appreciate everyone's thoughts that are shared here, other professionals who have shared the science behind conversion therapy. It's not even referred to as a therapy in the research literature because of how discredited it has been. So I strongly urge you to vote no in this legislation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Mary Schenkenfelder. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Iowa, and am here to express my opposition to this bill. I think that I'm not going to say anything wildly new than what other folks have said, but want to emphasize again that as a psychologist, evidence is the thing that drives my decision making, not ideology, not my emotions. Like, emotions are important in therapy, but that's not what drives my treatment planning. It's evidence. A lot of times in psychology and in science, we come out and we give you wishy-washy answers. We're not totally sure what will work, or we think this works, but we're not sure why. This is one of the rare instances where the science is very clear. There's no wishy-washy, there's no gray area. Conversion therapy does not work and is harmful. And when we're making treatment decisions, we weigh costs and benefits. We say, is the beneficial effect of this medication worth the side effects? In this case, there is no beneficial effect. There are only side effects. It's very clear that this is something that we need to keep the door firmly closed to. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Sierra Lauber. I am a psychologist working on my licensure. I did not have anything planned to say specifically for today. However, I did want to note, as I'm preparing for my licensure, it is very clearly outlined in our code of ethics that we are held as psychologists to a high standard of care, and that within that, we must advocate for the rights of others and for doing no harm, even if that goes against what legislation may say. And so I wanted to clearly express that I urge you to not support this bill, and I appreciate what everyone has shared and the strength that comes from them sharing it.
Thank you. My name's Tom Chapman. I'm with the Iowa Catholic Conference, and we're registered in support of the bill. First thing I'll say is I don't think this bill actually legalizes conversion therapy. I think what's legal today would be legal tomorrow if this bill passed. I'm not here to talk about that. From our perspective, it is essential for the law to help parents protect children while they develop. Children are not always capable of understanding the long-term consequences of their actions. That's why we have laws that have to do with the ability of minors to sign contracts, purchase alcohol or tobacco, gamble, vote, just to name a few examples. That's why those things are in the law. So from our perspective, the state should not be able to take away parents' custody because they failed to transition their child. This has happened in other states. So we support putting parental rights in statute, as this bill does, rather than depend on the courts or HHS. I'm also not here to defend bad parenting. We all know parents are not perfect, but parents are the ones who are best situated to know their child and know what their child needs to develop and help them heal and accept themselves. And I think we can trust parents to do that. And I have confidence that law enforcement authorities and licensing agencies should be able to continue to address bad actors. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Anita Fisher. I'm with Protect My Innocence. First, I would like to echo everything this gentleman to my right said. We feel very strongly about this the same way. So a common criticism of this bill is that it encourages conversion therapy. But that claim is not supported by any of the text in this bill that it even alludes to conversion therapy. It's not in this bill. Nothing in this legislation mentioned or promotes it. Instead, the bill provides clarity in law by ensuring that parents who raise their children consistent with their biological sex cannot be labeled abusive, denied custody, or disqualified from foster care or adoption for those beliefs. It reinforces parental rights, protects families from government overreach, and ensures that parents, not the state, remain the primary decision makers in this upbringing and care for their children. While it's not here in Iowa yet, it's on its way. And I appreciate this bill being proactive rather than reactive. Thank you.
I'm Mary Ellen Butler from Pella, Iowa. I am a member of Protect My Innocence. I've worked with hundreds of children. Children need to be taught everything. One of my, a very famous psychologist has said, reality is your friend. And reality is what God has created, male and female. Suicide ideation is rampant among people who are living dysfunctional lives because they are not facing reality. They are either male or female. I am in support of this bill. Thank you.
Good morning, or afternoon, Senators. My name is Heather Ryan. I'm with the organization Bitch Get Stuff Done, being registered, adamantly opposed to this bill. What nobody has mentioned so far is current cases. Iowa has an abysmal child protection system. And I speak from personal experience because my sister-in-law and brother nearly starved my nephew to death. When my sister-in-law was arrested for child abuse, my nephew was zip-tied to a chair. He was 16 years old and weighed 68 pounds. And that's what we are dealing with now. Now, had she said, my nephew said he was gay or he was wanting to transition, would she be okay with the law? Because that's what this bill does. It allows you to not give a child food. It allows you to restrain children if you think they are gay or transitioning. And it allows you to abuse them in the way that she abused my nephew. Now, as a foster parent to my nieces after this whole thing happened, I was a foster parent. So this bill would allow me to do the same. I could have restrained my nieces. I could have deprived them of food and water and education in an attempt to make sure they weren't gay. This is just piling on one more layer of abuse that the state of Iowa already allows. It's disgusting that we haven't even taken up, and your child abuse system hasn't even addressed the starvation of the children that have been in DHS custody. And now we're wanting to just do a little bit more, cause a little bit more harm. It's nonsensical. I don't understand why this bill is even being considered. I understand Senator Dickey has a personal experience with this, and if he votes for this, he should truly be ashamed. I understand your personal relationship with your daughter is strained. That should not come out on the lawmakers of Iowa. That should not come out on the people of Iowa. He's on this committee, okay? This is one more piece of abuse that we're allowing for people, parents of Iowa, to do to their children. Where are the children's rights? You say parents' rights? Where are the rights of the children to live?
My name is Brent Gales from Hull, Iowa. I'd like to register my support of this bill for reasons of parental rights and also just to be proactive about the upcoming issue.
Hi, my name is Evan Chamberlain of Bitches Get Stuff Done. We are registered against this, as my mother has said. I am the proud sister. I'm cisgender of two half siblings that are trans, and two step siblings that are also trans. My brother is my brother, and my sibling is my sibling. My stepsister is my stepsister, and my stepbrother is my stepbrother. And nothing you do will change that. I would like to point out that you guys are so adamant about pro-life until that child is born gay, until that child realizes they don't match with their at birth gender, until that child is disabled. So maybe you should get off your high horse and stop being hypocritical. Thank you.
Chuck Hurley, family leader, strongly in support of the bill. In answer to Senator Cornbach's question, I'd like to read a letter from an Iowa couple, Jim and Diana Plorins, Plorins. They've testified here at the Capitol before on this. They could not be here today. I have permission to read this. Thank you for your service on this committee. My wife and I have 3 adult children and 2 young children that we adopted from Iowa's foster care system. We know from personal experience there need to be legal protection for foster and adoptive parents who hold to convictions regarding children's biological sex. As Christians, we know that all individuals are created in the image of God, and He created them male and female. A person's sex is established at birth. As Christian parents, we only raise, guide, and instruct children in a manner consistent with the child's sex. That's true for us as biological, foster, and adoptive parents. We would not support gender transitioning. We support this bill because we experienced what can happen when this kind of legal protection is not in place. We were discriminated against by the contracting agency with Iowa HHS regarding foster care. Our Christian beliefs were mocked in foster care training and told we should not be foster parents if we don't affirm the entire LGBT community. The word ignorant was used to describe a religious denomination that shares similar convictions to our own. After providing foster care for about a year, our foster care license was placed on hold. This was related to our religious beliefs regarding same-sex relationships. HHS often says there's a shortage of foster and adoptive parents. Many individuals, like ourselves, foster and adopt due to our deeply held convictions. State-sanctioned ideologies that punish parents for their beliefs will significantly reduce the pool of foster parents in Iowa. Parenthetically, my wife and I have had about 15 foster children, 10 of which were long-term, 6 months to 13 years. And if this had happened to us, we would not have been licensed as foster parents. Finishing up here, the last paragraph. These ideologies will also likely result in costly litigation for the state of Iowa when foster parents such as we, as ourselves, have our First Amendment rights violated. That is actually the case now around the country. Lawsuits have been brought successfully by foster parents who are told that they cannot state their beliefs to their children or their foster children. This bill does not preclude HHS from taking into consideration the beliefs of a foster child, and HHS can continue to place children in foster and adoptive homes that best support that child. We encourage you to pass this bill. Thank you.
Okay, we are quickly running out of time, and there's a few that have been patiently waiting online, so we're going to go online. We'll take a couple, and then we'll close out with statements. So, Pam, you had your hand up. Where? Pam.
I support this bill. It is a parent's primary duty to protect their child and to teach them truth. As a Christian parent, I raise my children with biblical principles, including that God created 2 genders, male and female. A parent should not be accused of child abuse for raising their child as God created them. Thank you for bringing this bill forward, which is a parental rights bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Lance, if you'd like to speak. Lance.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I was having trouble getting it unmuted there. My name is Lance Kinzer with First Amendment Partnership, and there's been a lot said about the bill today that misunderstands the actual text and its effect. And really, the bill simply stands for the proposition that parenting that affirms a child's biological sex is not abuse or neglect. With respect to the conversion therapy issue, which has really been the focus of so much of the testimony, I I want to make it absolutely clear, there's nothing in this bill that changes what kinds of therapies or services can be provided by licensed mental health professionals in the state of Iowa. That law remains absolutely unchanged by this bill. But this bill does deal with a real issue that's resulted in tragic situations around the country where parents, simply because they're adopting a go slow approach with respect to a child's desire to gender transition, have been accused of abuse or neglect. And in fact, this issue recently received the attention of the federal government. Last week, the Administration for Children and Families at HHS sent a letter to all 50 states indicating that it's the position of HHS that children should not be removed, may not be removed from their homes solely because parents decline to support a child's self-identification as the opposite sex. So this bill actually helps to make sure that Iowa is in compliance with federal law at this point. What I really want to stress is that a disagreement between a parent and a child over an issue of gender identity is not abuse, it's prudent parenting. Iowa law should be clear that it's never the case. Simply because a parent wants to adopt a go-slow approach and a child's desire to medically or socially transition, there's a possibility that they'll be removed from the home, that the parents will face an investigation, or that they'll be disfavored in a custody matter. That's really what this bill is about. Conversion therapy laws are about what services licensed mental health professionals can provide. This bill says nothing about that. It leaves law enforcement and others completely free to investigate actual cases of abuse and neglect. So I believe it deals with a really significant problem, and I appreciate the committee's willingness to consider the bill today. Thank you.
Okay, we're out of time, and I anticipate that this room will need to be used here quickly. So we'll go to closing comments. Senator Quirmbach, you have closing comments?
Please make them quick.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, several things here. As I read the bill, and I read it twice already this morning, it refers to a child's sex, a child's sex. It does not refer to a child's sexual orientation, a distinction that the legislature has been making in recent years. So as far as conversion therapy that talk somebody out of being gay or whatever, that is not effective. And I apologize, I've got a phone ringing in the background.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Kind of a mess. Anyway, I have not heard, I asked for evidence as to particular cases where parents have been accused of child abuse for related issues, and no examples were given. The one example, the letter that was read, referred to same-sex relationships. Again, that's not covered by the bill. Someone else who was in favor of the bill said it hasn't arrived here yet. So I'm back where I started. This seems to me to be a solution in search of a problem. If there ever were a case of alleged child abuse, I would want to see how the courts would handle that. I think that those are cases where you need to look at the particular facts that are alleged in a particular situation. I don't know that the legislature, especially when we're operating without any evidence or experience, really is in the position to make the best judgment. Situations were mentioned where children were starved or they were tied down or whatever. Those are also not addressed by the bill. Those that seem to me would be clear cases of child abuse, whatever the reason was that children were treated in that way, and that would still be illegal under the bill. So, what the bill talks about is using pronouns. The one paragraph that was pointed to here on page 1.
Senator Quirmbach, we're holding up the room right now. We're about 15 minutes over time.
Well, I understand that, and I'm almost done. So I'm not going to support the bill. Like I say, it's a solution in search of a problem, and there's no real evidence here from Iowa to justify going ahead with this.
Thank you. Senator Dickey?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The issue we're talking about here today is a legitimate issue. It's a sincere issue, an issue we should be talking about. It should not be cheapened by someone trying to take cheap shots, speaking on a situation they absolutely have no information on, zero. But since the person thought she did and should bring it out in a public manner, I will address it, because I have not addressed this in 6 years. My daughter, 5 or 6 years ago, claimed that she was a lesbian. She was an adult when she claimed that. I did not cut my daughter out of my life. I've never said a word to her about her proclamation that she was lesbian. That conversation has never happened. Those words have never crossed my lips or been pinned in an email. That has not happened. She made a decision. She made a statement when she was an adult. And while I may not agree, I have never chastised, criticized, or done anything towards her or anybody else about the situation. I love my daughter like millions of parents that love their children but may not agree with everything. But she was an adult when she made the statement that she did. And those last 5 years, she's had a baby, which I have not seen in 2 years, because my daughter has not spoken to me in the last 5 years. But it's not because of anything that I have ever done or said to her. She made the choice to cut me out of her life because of decisions that she had. Nothing had to do with anything that I have ever done or said to her. So, Miss Ryan, your accusations, your comments are nothing but defamation. And it's just sickening that you use a venue like this. Quiet. It's sickening that you use a venue like this to blow your dirty laundry and you've never even spoken to me about in the past. With that being said, and I apologize to everybody in this room for that having to be said, we heard a lot of compelling comments today. But several times I've gone back and looked at the bill, and I have not seen conversion therapy in the bill. I don't see where it talks about transgender or gay issues. What the issue is about is parental rights. And I think stepping on parental rights or telling the parents they don't have rights to raise their children is an incredibly slippery slope to walk on. I think it is an issue that is much greater than a panel of 3 people to just say yes or no, whether that should be a conversation that's worthy of having. So I will sign out on the bill so the entire Judiciary Committee can have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our subcommittee meeting on House File 2557. I agree with Senator Dickey that this is an issue that just came upon us and requires further consideration than just a 3-person panel. And with that, we will be signing in advance of the bill. Thank you.